Thank you very much. This is quite a surprise. I'll just say that this study tickled us from the very beginning because it was probably the most fun study that all of us have engaged in, both because our collaborators are phenomenal and the two populations we studied are just wonderful groups of people that made the research incredibly rewarding. So my story starts almost as far back as the first story. As a young postdoc in 1979, I was introduced to the Hutterites and established a research program in this population ever since. And these were the Hutterites that live in South Dakota. They're an Anabaptist sect similar to the Amish, but with the main distinction is that the Hutterites live on these large communal farms where the men do all the farming and the animal barns are far from the homes and the women do women's work, and the children and the women are never exposed to the animals. And I'm a geneticist and an anthropologist, and my research was really to find genes for complex phenotypes in the Hutterites, which I've been trying to do since 1979. And shortly thereafter, I started to be interested in asthma and allergy and started to study the Hutterites because we noticed they have a lot of asthma. And we were very successful in getting NIH funding, and we've been studying asthma in the Hutterites since early 1990s, looking for genes that cause asthma in the Hutterites. And a few years back, a very close colleague of ours, Erica von Mutius, who studied farming lifestyles in Europe and how that protected from the European farmers from asthma, it was brought to her attention that the Amish, who live in Indiana, had a very low prevalence of asthma. And she did a small study there to confirm that indeed there's hardly any asthma in the Amish. The Amish and the Hutterites are as genetically similar to each other as the Swiss and the Austrians, because the Amish are Swiss origins, the Hutterites are Austrian. They come from similar, very close areas in Europe. And we started to think that this might be an ideal model to try to figure out what is going on in the Amish communities that's really protecting them from asthma. And it was a very hard transition for me because I'm a geneticist and I tend to think that things should be genetically based, but this study has completely turned me around. It's the first paper I've ever written where the genetics was really a minor piece, because the conclusion was that it's really their environmental exposures. So we probably could eliminate asthma in the world if everyone would put a cow in their house. And we know that's not particularly practical, but we think over the next 5 to 10 years, we can identify what it is in the dust that these farming children are exposed to and possibly put it into some kind of mister that you could put in your baby's bedroom at night, and when they breathe in the essence of cow barn, and eliminate childhood asthma. So it's very exciting because it's not an avenue I ever thought I would be going down. And yet it kind of makes so much sense given the epidemic of asthma over the past 50 years. So again, it's been a great study. Ann Sperling and Donato Vercelli, who are sitting here, were instrumental collaborators on this study. And thank you, this is just terrific.